This is a conclave, Aldo. It's not a war.
It is a war. And you have to commit to a side.
We knew we wanted to give this almost like 70s thriller vibe.
The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it.
It's almost like the starker I could make it, the more interesting the space could be.
I shall pretend this conversation never took place.
That wall isn't marble, that's again MDF with a bit of fable on it.
What? That sounds ominous.
Hi, I'm Paula Benson, founder and editor of Film and Furniture. Today on the Film and Furniture podcast, we explore the design, spaces and furniture of Conclave with the film's production designer, Suzie Davies. Conclave is a sophisticated political thriller that follows one of the world's most secretive and ancient events, the selecting of a new pope. It's a kind of house of cards within the cardinals of the Catholic Church, a succession in red robes with much less violence. Conclave has lots of symmetry, one-point perspective. It's a really graphic approach. So join us as we explore the film's bold but minimal colour palette, the grand ornate buildings and austere surroundings, heavy clanking doors, vivid characters, stunning cinematography, and breathtaking locations and film sets.
Here's the lady of the day.
How you doing, Paula?
Do you know, it's a year ago we last spoke about Saltburn.
Really? Similar circumstances, weren't we, I think? We were just about to start filming on that last one, so yeah.
So, Conclave, congratulations.
Thank
Amazing
you.
film. It's such a sophisticated political thriller, but it's appealing to all ages and all types, which is really interesting. And the production design obviously brings a really, really strong atmosphere to all this. So how did you get involved with Conclave?
So I'd met Edward for a production that was due to happen during the lockdown. So I guess I was on his radar, and this job I think had been around for a while. I think it almost got going at other stages, and I guess my stars aligned as such, and I was available when he reached out, and we started work on it in the summer of 2022. So we had some crazy recce's in Rome in that hot summer, which was a pretty tough job, you know.
Someone's got to do it.
Exactly. Someone's got to do it. Yeah, it's difficult to turn a job down like this that was a cracking script, a great director, and living in Rome for 6 months. That'll do. Yeah.
So how much did director Edward Berger get involved in the locations and the choosing of sets? How much did he have in his head? How much did he dictate? And how much did he leave for you to create?
He was involved every which way. He's meticulous. He's very thoroughly prepped. He has a very visual graphic eye. And I loved that preparation period working with him and bouncing the ideas around of how we were going to create this world. Obviously, there's elements that are known. You know, we know it takes place in the Vatican, in the Sistine Chapel in particular. But within the story, there are elements that are behind the scenes. And it was very clear from Edward's thoughts, which he's very adept at expressing to all his HODs, this is what he wants to achieve. Building that behind the scenes world was great. And on our recce's, we'd gone to the Euro district of Rome. In that area, it's full of brutal, fascist, contemporary Italian architecture, which is gorgeous. And the idea that we could bring that into this world where perhaps we think cardinals take place in Renaissance paintings and they have to be in, you know, religious halls or wonderful painted corridors or cloisters. To see these characters in a different environment in these municipal areas piqued both our interest, and yeah, off we went.
Obviously, the choosing of a new pope, very, very, very secretive. So how did you go about creating this atmosphere and these places and spaces that no one's really seen before?
Yeah, you know, filmmaking is about collaboration as much as anything. So it's working very closely with Stefan Fontaine, who's incredible. And, you know, the script helps, you know, and again, Edward's direction, we knew we wanted to give this almost like 70s thriller vibe to the story. So a lot of our choices in some of the locations we used are very graphic. They're gave us opportunities to find staircases and corridors and hidden corners that Stefan lit so beautifully, and to play with the colours, the deep red, almost the blood running through not only the story, but all the cardinals' amazing costumes. That absolutely has an influence, particularly in the Casa Santa Marta that we built to allow that continuity of those characters are so strong in the story, and what a responsibility they have, to sort of feel the heaviness of their current situation. So building that Casa Santa Marta like posh prison, really, and using elements of contemporary Italian architect like Carlo Scarpa. I created those little 3 windows in the doors that look like a prison door, but quite a cool one, quite a posh one. And just the idea of stripping all the colour out, apart from the reds and the greys and those sort of colder tones for behind the scenes. Yeah, it was about turning up the dials of the secrecy, the intense heaviness of what they feel, and also that, again, playing with the juxtaposition of seeing these wonderful characters out of their normal comfort zone and seeing them in a municipal canteen, getting in a lift, going in a minibus, all the more uneasy situations we try to find for them. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned the Casa Santa Marta there. So this is where the clergy and the visiting cardinals stay. It's a very elaborate Airbnb, right? So where religious people stay before the conclave. So it feels very oppressive. There are some details there that I think are so well thought through. So you mentioned there, it's almost like a posh prison. So you've got these long corridors of marble with doors. The doors, as you mentioned, have these little squares in them. And then you've got shutters which come down, and it sort of feels very cold and quite clinical, literally. So tell us more about that.
The whole idea for that was to make it as cinematic as possible. And in a lot of the thrillers of the 70s, there's those long corridors where you just see people at the ends disappearing. So I had a big stage. I thought, okay, I'm going to use the length of it to get a corridor. So that's where we start. The squares became the opposite to the curvy feminine shapes that we see in the outside walls of the Vatican. So I wanted to do the opposite, where you take a breath in, is out in the Vatican gardens and in the cloisters, and then it closes down again. And it was sort of written like that. It's closed down inside. It's hermetically sealed. It's like the pause before you breathe again. So there's no mouldings. There's no architraving around the door. It's all very simple, plain, but also playing with the ancient and the modern. So we've got gilded staircases abundant, but in ours, we've got key fob doors, the ones that you just do with a Wi-Fi code. Again, another little square, again, like a bright green light, just to bring those sort of differences in. And then when you go into these rooms, we wanted to help enhance or support the characters that are in there from their point of view, but they don't live here, they're just staying there. So the characters are purely in the costumes and the way the actors inhabit their costumes in those spaces. So it's almost like the starker I could make it, the more interesting the space could be. So we just changed occasional things and moved walls in and out depending on who was staying in that room. So, for instance, John Lithgow's character, our backstory was he knew someone who knew someone who knew someone who got in probably one of the biggest, best rooms in the Casa Santa Marta. So he actually got an office area, he got a plush bathroom, a separate bedroom, the nicest coffee machine, and nicer tables and chairs. Whereas Lawrence didn't care, just wanted everyone to get in a room. And Lawrence's room is probably the worst one, on the ground floor next to the lift, where you can sort of smell the canteen. And it's just a bed sit, really. It's a room with a bathroom off it.
What if I know in my heart that I am not worthy?
With Bellini, Stanley Tucci's character, we all know Stanley Tucci, and he's Cardinal Bellini. It could have been Cardinal Negroni, couldn't it, because of what he does. So we gave him the best mini fridge. We thought he'd just have good stuff in there, He might have got an in with the nuns running the kitchens to get him some better nibbles, Anyway, little things. And we played with all of those things, but it's one set. And because I didn't have enough room, we had to move walls in and out and stretch it. The same with the popes. We had to elevate his environment. So he has the biggest one. And we put carpet down just to make it sound a little bit less echoey. But for all the others, we wanted it to feel like the air has been sucked out, hermetically sealed. That when the shutters come down, we were very clear, because it makes it very difficult for Stefan to light that. So we put little holes in the shutters that actually we realised look like bars on a prison window. So when the shutters come down, that helps as well. And those little pinpricks of light coming through with the fluorescent lighting, which is perhaps the only thing you can hear.
These details never cease to blow my mind. Yeah, there's a few things you mentioned there I'd love to dive into a bit deeper, particularly colour themes and this sort of duality and juxtapositions, which I think is really key in the story and in the film sets.
Sure.
But just going back to, building the Sistine Chapel, presumably you weren't allowed to film in there.
Yeah, you're not allowed. I think there's a line just in front of it where you can't take even photographs, so let alone film a contemporary story. Being based at Cinecittà Studios in Rome is absolutely glorious, because it's full of filmmaking history, and you're buzzing as soon as you go through the gates. What they do have is an amazing backlot of ancient Rome, and they have a warehouse of sets that from films way back. And they did happen to have packed down into the far corner some flattage from the Sistine Chapel build for a previous production. So we basically pulled that out, and it was, I think, 110 flats. They're 8 foot wide, 50 foot high, and we put them all back together again, painted them back up. I was able to use the magnificent, amazing craftsmen and women at Cinecittà to repaint the walls of the Sistine Chapel. Ridiculous even saying that. That extension, because not even the studios in Cinecittà are big enough to fit the whole of it in. So the roof, the ceiling is CGI extension. I was a little ambiguous with the design. And because it's a set, I can do these things. We changed slightly some of the architectural elements of the Sistine Chapel just to allow us to bring our cardinals into more like a congress feel. So they're fully face-to-face. And it feels equal. It feels like it could be set in Congress, for instance. It felt very political to be able to do that. So we were able to reuse and readapt that set, which again, the craftsmen put together in about 10 weeks. It was massive. It was a huge build. And we put that in the biggest stage we could get at Cinecittà. And next door to that, we built the Casa Santa Marta, which was like an Escher painting all the way around the sides. We used every spare inch of that studio. It was really fun to do.
One massive big puzzle trying to fit it all in.
Yeah.
So Cinecittà, very famous film studios in Rome. Who's filmed that? Fellini, Antonioni.
Yeah. It's endless. And what was amazing is our offices were right opposite stage 5, Cinque, I think. But that's my Italian going up again. I just learned sign language when I was over there. But so to come out and see that plaque of Fellini's stage was great, and just the essence of it. It's got lovely Roman pines up their avenues as you go in. And when we were filming there was another film taking place that was recreating Cinecittà back in the 30s. So occasionally I'd walk out of my office and just find this, a 30s vibe of a old studio. So yeah, it was fabulous. Really, really great experience.
Yeah. What are the chances of finding a stage set or some flats from, is this quite common that you might no?
Yeah, not common at all. Like, I think if you speak to any designers, occasionally it seems prudent to keep sets, for instance, the Houses of Parliament or a hospital set or things like that. However, storage is never good. Secondly, every story requires a different requirement of the set. Our stories start from ground zero sort of thing. We build according to what the story requires. And because it's always a jigsaw of production companies making these films, who's going to pay for the storage in between sort of thing.
Wow.
So I think prudently the Italian production company managed to keep the Sistine Chapel. And there's an ancient Roman backlot that people use in Cinecittà. In Prague, I think there's Budapest, there's ancient or a 1930s New York backlot. I think I've got a 1930s morgue in Essex somewhere that's still standing that people use. And I, in a way, is you pay it on sort of thing. A lot of the time, it's nice to come across things that you can perhaps readapt or reuse in the money-saving times we live in. sometimes it works out. So, and it worked out on this for sure. I don't think the film would have happened, perhaps.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you're working with really amazing Italian craftsmen to recreate the paintings and recreate the chapel. Do you think that obviously really helped, that having Italian craftspeople?
Completely. And that's the joy of my job. I get to work abroad or get dropped into different dynamics of how films are made. You know, you can make a film so many different ways, and the Italians make it this way. And I used a completely local crew and just found the way they get their end product was extraordinary. The team of painters that we had did the original set 10, 20 years ago, or whenever it was. And the lead painter is a fantastic lady called Paula, and she runs a tight team of extraordinary artists to paint that. And it was wonderful going onto the set whilst we were building it, because it was all about the painting. Actually putting the flats up was easy and quick. It was the painting. It's because the Sistine Chapel is relatively flat. It's all about the artwork. And so they painted for a good 8 weeks. They had some cracking tunes on in that studio. There were cherry pickers, ladders, a team of probably about 10 artists. Yeah, I was quite jealous of that job because it had a great vibe going onto the set whilst they were there, yeah.
And you had obviously Cynthia is an Italian set decorator as well,
Yeah.
so she must have brought a lot to the table as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and I had a great supervising art director, Roberta Federico. When I start on those sort of jobs, I have to slightly rely on the local crew, on my HODs within my crew to bring their favourites and the right people for the job, the right dynamic for the job. And we absolutely got that. You know, I worked with amazing concept artists, and graphics team was amazing. All the art directors were amazing. Yeah, it was just refreshing to work with a bunch of people that I didn't have the greatest language skills with, but because we work in a visual language, it was all about drawing. So we would draw what we wanted, you know.
The international language. It's not love, it's drawing, right?
Yeah.
In Conclave, we catch sight of some furniture design classics, such as the black leather sofas and armchairs by the dynamic designers Le Corbusier, Charlotte Perriand and Pierre Jeanneret. Originally designed in 1928, these timeless modernist designs have a sculptural shape and are crafted from a chrome tubular steel frame that supports beautiful leather seats. The contemporary version, the LC3 sofa, is padded with feathers for optimal comfort. We also see the Arco floor lamp, a pioneering icon of the mid-century. This is a stunning indoor floor lamp, aptly named for its arced silhouette. It was inspired actually by urban streetlight and was designed by the Castiglione brothers in 1962. The Arco floor lamp has now garnered legendary status. Find these and hundreds of other items spotted in film and TV in our marketplace at filmandfurniture.com.
Talking of set decoration, with the details of the Sistine Chapel, so I mean, this amazing symmetrical space where all the cardinals are sitting. You've got that fantastic red carpet, red tablecloths with gold details. And then I noticed that on the tables that you have the same three objects. There's a hat and
a book and the ballot paper and a pencil, I think, yeah. We built a template. So like a stencil. So we put it down, a hat. So it was all really regular, because when we do the explosion, we did that 4 times. So we had to do a quick turnaround.
Yep.
So it'd be a swoop, everyone would move off the set and the prop guys would move on with hoovers and brushes. And then we'd come back with this stencil. So we'd put, there'd be a team putting hats, pencil, book, hat, pencil, book, all the way back. And off we went again. And those sort of turnarounds enabled us to get four goes in, I think, yeah.
So you did the explosion scene 4 times and then had to reset up the whole scene all over again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We practiced it. We'd done an explosion during prep on another stage to see how far the detritus would go. We knew it was coming up, so hence why the prop team had this fantastic idea of the couple of stencils, and everyone was given a job, and you go on your marks, get set, go, and it's like a badge of honor to do it faster, do it quicker, do it better each time. Yeah, it was exciting.
So did you have any knowledge of the Vatican? Had you visited previously?
I'd driven through Rome, but never stayed there. So during the prep period, I had a wonderful tour of the Vatican, and we managed to get in with a great guide who managed to get us, I think you can get in, the earliest you can get in is like 6:30. So we got a 6:30 slot. And whilst most people go clockwise, she had worked wonders to make us go the other way. And we just picked out the bits we needed to go. So we saw the Vatican without all the tourists, but with hundreds of security. But it was actually all the other elements that we were keen on, because there are, as much as you're not allowed to take photographs, there are images of the Sistine Chapel on the internet. It was all the behind the scenes. What did the Casa Santa Marta really look like? What did the gardens look like? Where are these turtles? All those sort of things. So we were able to find elements of those with this fantastic guide, and just to feel the essence of what we were after.
So there's a lot of juxtapositions, a lot of duality, but it's such a bold but minimal colour palette. So you've got lots of blacks and whites, and then all these reds expressed in so many ways, and this sense of blood. And
exactly, yeah. Red has so many connotations, yeah. And I think that's what we wanted to do, because it's all about a continuing life force. I mean, you can read so much into life, death, love. And also, at the very end of the movie, we painted the Room of Tears red. People know it's a whitewashed room. And we just decided that was that the right colour for us? Because we never go that sort of bright at that point for that story beat. So we found this amazing rundown farmhouse on the outskirts of Rome and did a number on it and painted it that deep red, blood red colour with all the lovely ceiling architecture in that room, and those just the small elements of the dressing, which is basically Room of Tears, where the Pope gets ready to go, before he's sort of made Pope. It was that, again, a pause in the proceedings, the moment between breathing in and breathing out, what's going to happen. It made it a little bit more intense, a bit more nervy, a bit what's going to happen. But I felt it felt like a womb in there. It felt like this is, a life force is happening, and softness as well, and like safety and support in there as well. So I think you can read lots of things into the colour red, perhaps more than any other colour.
Yeah, and the red in the Room of Tears is very textured. So then it becomes all about texture, I guess, because if you've got a minimal colour palette like that, then texture is everything, right, to bring tonality and pulling and pushing.
And it's really interesting because that room was, as I say, an old farmhouse sort of thing. So the plasterwork was really rubbly, bumpy. And I think had I built that set, I would have gone for much cleaner walls. But actually, that's the beauty of doing things on location. You're given these idiosyncrasies that, of course, that could absolutely be. Why shouldn't there be a damp problem underneath the Sistine Chapel that they've fixed over the years that has created this more historical, sincere, authentic built place?
So with that red textured wall, and then if I remember correctly, there's some kind of some robes hanging on rails in plastic.
Beads, yeah.
So you get this sort of real kind of subconscious kind of jarring of the texture with the kind of crispness.
Exactly that.
And then the other scene, this is like cinematic classicness. Is in the theatre? Is it a lecture theatre or the cinema?
Yeah. And that is all about restraint from my point of view, because that was a gift. And that's a director and a DOP and myself and the location manager seeing that on the recce and then go, okay, we're coming here. And I think all I did was put a little tea service in when the nuns come in and out. It was about me being restrained. It's knowing that the cardinals in their costumes, in that environment, in those colours, in those chairs, I don't need to do anything. And it's holding back. Yeah.
The sign of a real pro scenery, right? When not to get involved.
Well, it's so important. Yeah.
And these scenes with the white colours that we just touched upon earlier, another really graphic scene of this kind of sweeping corridors with, I think there's some marble benches to one side and there's all this texture of the marble. Where was that filmed?
That is in that Euro area, and that is a museum, but very luckily it was currently being revamped, so it's closed, and that's like the courtyard space. And either side of that is very, very modern and not part of our world. But that one corridor, we went for that unusual modern cloistered area, I guess. And then we had those benches made so that we could pause and have, I think Cardinal Lawrence sits down and has a little chat there, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah. There's also something that really, really hit home to me with this film, because it is very restrained. The color palette's restrained. There's a lot of symmetry, but then the sound of objects. So you get a clanking door or a little sound of a glass. Is that something that just comes naturally, or is that something you're considering when you're kind of building these sets and choosing objects?
The sound on this, I think I have to just hand that over to a brilliant sound engineers to have found that for you. Do you know what I mean? I think the sounds they've probably used aren't the sounds that I gave them. You know, those doors aren't big, heavy metal doors. They're wooden, made out of ply. That wall isn't marble. That's, again, MDF with a bit of Fablon on.
What?
Yeah, I know.
MDF with Fablon, right.
Yeah. So that's my great graphics team. So we took inspiration from the Euro buildings in Rome, decided on that pattern, printed the pattern off, got the colorway that we wanted, and then printed something like 200 sheets that then get stuck onto the MDF that then got put onto the flattage with a little shadow gap. Again, because shadow gaps are contemporary rather than, you know, some sort of ornamentation. So back to sound. Yeah, I don't give any of that sound. They put that on. You know, I give the environment and hopefully I did it for you, that you thought it was real marble.
Oh, yeah, big time. So just sort of to wrap up a little bit. So you, going back to the beginning of your career, am I right in saying that you're a model maker?
Yeah. I worked for a sculptor and model maker, making anything out of a 10-foot dragon to a 50-foot dragon out of polystyrene and plaster and things like that. And I started basically sweeping floors for him and making cups of tea whilst I was looking for a grown-up job. And it was like someone opening a door to a world I knew nothing about. I came from a very traditional background. I needed to be, I don't know, a nurse, a teacher, a farmer, or go into the army or something like that. And this amazingly eccentric sculptor and artist started treating me like an apprentice and telling me how to read a drawing and how to build something from that drawing. So I became very spatially aware, working on some amazing projects and films, but as a sort of slightly voyeur, because we'd go and drop our sets, our builds off, and I would hang around and just watch a film crew on set start to build it together on the pre-light days. And I wouldn't have that much responsibility other than sweeping the floor. So I could watch everybody and work out who did what. And it just piqued my interest. And I started working as an assistant for other designers. And then I started art directing, and the rest is history, as they say. And there's something about working your way through. You just get to know what everyone does a bit more. And I think in my department, I try and have a smattering of people who've gone to film school, people have gone to, I don't know, have been nurses, people who've been teachers, and people have worked their way through, because you need that mixture to storytell, because not all stories are about the same thing. You need a bit of everyone to bring everything. So people who have retrained or people who are nearly retiring, you need the real mixture of people.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
So, you know my favourite question, don't you? If you were going to take something home from the film set of Conclave for your own home, what might it be?
Well, I really like the doors in the Casa Santa Marta. I was really chuffed with how they turned out. I might take that, maybe the coffee machine. And I don't think we ever had a sequence when anyone was having any gelato, but the gelato in Rome was amazing.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. The next level, isn't it? I was going to ask you about that. So basically, you were working there, but did you get a chance to sample some real Italian, proper, beautiful, amazing cuisine?
Yeah, well, also our location manager was a feeder. So whenever we were out on recce's, we'd end up at some amazing restaurant in a little hillside town or whatever, and open the door and there'd just be this amazing spread, and it'd be a member of his family or someone he knew. And I definitely got to partake in some of the Italian cuisine. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much, Suzie, and congratulations again. Another superb job. Will they be rolling out the red carpet for you, do you think?
Don't know.
We're rooting for you. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
I hope you enjoyed that insightful chat. You can take a look at our in-depth feature as well, with lots of film set images at filmandfurniture.com, where you'll find many fascinating articles on interiors, furniture, decor and lighting in film, as well as where to find these items for your own home. That's all in our marketplace. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time.